All right, everyone. Today we're going to be introducing the Green Team. The Green Team is the core foundation to everything we do in Lead 'em Up, and is going to be that foundation that we build all around as we go through this process of going through Lead 'em Up. And the Green Team is powerful. I mean, it is a tool and a language framework that can change everything for you and your teammates. Now, the Green Team is a leadership and character performance framework. A leadership and character performance framework. Character is who you are, your character traits, and your actions and behaviors, your leadership. And for us, the Green Team states that all teams, no matter the sport, are broken into 3 levels. Got 3 little sections here. On one side, you've got green. In the center, you've got gray. And over here, you've got red. Now, within your team, some of you may be green, some of you may be gray, and some of you may be red. Now, let's make sure we understand what this is all about and what each of these sections mean. So let's start right here. Green represents money. Man, we like money. Money's cool, but it's interesting because when you actually look at a lot of slang or urban dictionaries, money has actually become a synonym for the word special. Now, you may or may not be familiar with that, but it's brought up at times. You'll hear things like, man, did you see my highlight tape? Oh, it was money. Oh, I got this new car. It's money. Oh, I got these new shoes. It's money. Whether you've heard that or not, it's a thing. So the reality is green represents money because there's a color connection, but it ultimately represents special. Now, keep this in mind. Because of the fact that this is a character and leadership framework, when we say special, we are talking about special people. So here's what I want each of you to do right now. I want everyone in the room to think of one teammate. One teammate that if they had to describe them as a person. Now, keep in mind, I am not concerned in this moment about their skill level or about their stats. No, that's the coach's responsibility. No, we're talking leadership and character here. I want you to think of one person that if you had to describe them as a person, oh, they're money. Oh, they're money. Maybe you love how they show up. Maybe you love their energy. Maybe you love their positivity. Maybe they're very supportive. I don't know what it is, but I want everybody to think of one person. Now, here's what I want you to do. You've got your one person in mind. I want you, amongst yourselves, to take a moment, and I want some of the individuals in the room to share who that person is that comes to mind for them and why that person came to mind for them. Go ahead and take a few minutes and discuss it amongst yourselves and have people share about who they believe is money within their space. Money. I mean, we all have people in our lives. We all have people we've been around that frankly are just really, really good. Man, they're good people. And as you were describing these individuals, essentially what you're doing is you're really describing their character. I mean, when you say things like, I don't know, maybe they're hardworking, they're positive, they're consistent, they're committed. Maybe you love their passion and because they're passionate. Maybe they're humble. So frankly, all you're doing is describing their character. You see, when we talk about being green, very important, we're talking about individuals that show up with the character and leadership that moves you closer to winning. The reality is, though, we believe character is the biggest game changer in sports. Now, most athletes don't agree with that. When we've asked them, hey, what do you think is the biggest difference maker in sports? More often than not, here's what they say. Talent. They think it all comes down to talent. And the reality is, yes, talent plays a role, but it's actually the character and leadership that brings it to life. You see, the reason most young athletes don't think character is the difference maker is simply because they don't view character through the right lens. Let me build it out for you for a second. There are 2 sides of the character equation. On one side, you've got what we call moral character, and it's connected to one's integrity. On the other side, we've got what we call mental character, and it's connected to one's performance. You see, moral character connected to integrity is about being respectful, polite, well-mannered, etiquette, and it's important, don't get me wrong. But the reality is there's this other side of mental connected to performance that are traits described like discipline, passion, consistency, work ethic, resilience. The reality is you could have great moral character but not mental character. When we talk about being green, here's what we want. We want individuals demonstrating high-level moral character and high-level mental character. Because when you put them together, it helps move you closer to winning. And that is what we call green. So it would be amazing if we could show up green each and every day. But the reality is that's not always the case. Sometimes we are guilty of showing up a little less than our best. And on this particular scale, we call that red. So let me switch over to red here. Now, it's interesting. In business, they often say if your business is in the red, it is losing what? Does anyone know? Money. So that's the second reason why we put this here, right? Because on the other side, red is losing money. But here's what it ultimately means. We're not where we could be. We're not reaching our full potential. We're not coming together the way we need to. We aren't operating on all cylinders. There's some distractions. There's some unhealthiness. There are some things right now preventing us or getting in the way of us being successful. We are losing. We are in the red. Now, more often than not, when teams experience these challenges and frustrations or these obstacles or unhealthiness, it often is a result of the individuals in the room not demonstrating the character and leadership needed to reach your full potential. You see, my guess is we've all had teammates at various points of our lives that, frankly, were a little challenging or a little annoying, that were kind of doing things to hurt more than help the team. Maybe exhibiting some behaviors and some character that was distracting. I mean, think about some teammates that in your life that maybe hurt more than help your team. What were some of the character traits that came to mind or come to mind when you think about these teammates? You know, my guess, it's things like negative, selfish, complainer. Maybe they had a big ego. Maybe they were uncoachable. You know what? Maybe they were even lazy. Maybe they weren't committed, uncommitted. You see, these are all simple character traits, and they're character traits that often describe teammates at times, describe athletes. And the reality is there are red characteristics and traits potentially in some of you. Maybe not all the time, but maybe sometimes. You know, maybe sometimes some of us are guilty of being a little more negative than positive. Maybe some of us are a little more guilty of being selfish than selfless. Maybe some of us have an ego that's a little bigger. Maybe some of us aren't fully committed yet. Maybe some of us, right, aren't as coachable and open to feedback as we could. We just have to wrestle with this potential reality that some of these red traits are simply describing us, because they could. Now, let's jump into the gray. Now, when we talk about the gray, let me describe gray athletes. They are in, but not all in. They like it, but I wouldn't say they love it. They care, but not to the point where they're willing to sacrifice significantly for it. We say grays are incredible. Catch this. Doing just enough. Doing just enough. And frankly, gray teammates can frustrate us because we can look at them and say, man, I feel like he or she has such another level inside of them, has so much more potential than what they're delivering and what they're giving. If only. That's kind of the hinge word, if only. If only they cared more. If only they were more focused, more committed, more hardworking, more passionate, more consistent, more disciplined. What you're actually saying, as weird as it may sound, is if only their character was different. Or on this particular scale, if only they were more green. So here's the deal. That is the overview of the green team. But the goal is not simply to overview it. The goal is to actually bring it to life. And here is where we're about to embark, because through this process, we're going to help bring together and bring to life what it looks like and feels like to build a green team. And why are we going to do this? Because we are simply wanting to give you more of what you want. What do I mean by that? Here's the deal. If I were to put a survey out amongst the team and simply asked you this season, this year, hey, how do you want us to look? How do you want us to have, a season to reflect? And I simply said, pick one. Do you want red? Do you want gray or green? I mean, which one do you want? My guess, unanimous green. Well, athletes always have to remember, we're never given green teams, we build them. And they are built on the backs of the players, not the coaches. Keep this in mind. Coaches absolutely play a role. They guide us, they help kind of direct us, but it is the players that need to bring it to life. And if the players don't bring it to life, it almost doesn't matter what the coaches do. We need the players to build the green team. Now, to help get this process going, if we're going to play the team game, play the game of being on a team, we need to know the rules to which to play in. So we're about to embark on uncovering the 7 rules to help us understand what's it going to take from us to build the green team. But before we get to these 7 rules, and I'm going to need some participation as we go through these rules, I need to make sure y'all know the mission statement. I mean, essentially, let's keep it as simple as possible. 6 words describes what it's going to take for us to get this done. Here's what it is. Your job, starting today officially, lead 'em up style, it is to do everything you can to remove red, sway gray, and build green. Now, we're not trying to remove people. What we're trying to remove is the characteristics and behavior that cause our teams to move closer to losing than winning. When we say sway gray, we're essentially trying to lead them up. And we're trying to build a green team because that is where everything we want as a team comes to life. We increase the chances of winning, we have more fun, we compete greater, we're more connected, we're more competitive. All the good things within a team live when we build a green team. Now let's jump into the rules, and I'm going to need some participation on this. Here's rule number 1. Rule number 1 says, in order to build green, you must first be green. I want you to take a quick moment with your teammates and reflect on that rule. What comes to mind when you hear that? In order to build green, you must first be green. What do you think I'm getting at with that rule? Discuss it amongst yourselves for a moment and share what you think. So my hope is that we unpack this reality that we've got to do the right thing. We've got to lead by example. I mean, the reality is if you're not green, you're not going to be able to get others to the green. I mean, think about it. It's hard to get others to be hardworking if you're lazy. It'll be hard to get others to be positive if you're always negative. It'll be hard to get others committed when you're not even committed yourself. There's a quote that says, leadership's not about you, but it starts with you. In order to build a green team, here's the deal. We need everyone in the room checking themselves every single day. How are you showing up? Are you showing up red? Are you showing up gray? Or are you showing up green? We have no chance of building a green team unless you are interested and willing to put in the work and effort to get yourself fully green. That's where it starts. Now, rule 2 gets a little dicey, a little more interesting. Here's how it goes. Rule 2 says if you are a floater, you're the lower of the 2 levels you float between. Most athletes are floaters. The most common type of floater are green to gray floaters. Some days they're green, some days they're gray. And you know it. You can see it. The days they're green, they come in with great energy, enthusiasm. They're running around, they're helping. Maybe there's a vocal component to them. There's a positivity. There's just this energy around them, and it feels good. Now, the very next day, not bad, but you can kind of tell now they're just going through the motions. They're kind of just there. Showed up, doing what's needed, but nothing extra. And it's not bad, and I don't want to paint a picture that it's bad, but it's clearly different than they were the day before. Here's the deal. You're a floater. You're a floater. One day green, one day gray. Now, some of us are what we call gray to red floaters. The reality is, maybe the most you give your team is you simply showing up. You're not really giving much extra. You're not putting in extra work. You're not kind of contributing more. You're just kind of going through the motions. But then there's moments where maybe you're a little red. Oh, this stinks, and I don't want to be here, and this is annoying, and I should be playing more. All the different red kind of complaints that often show up amongst red teammates. One day you're gray, one day you're red. If that's the case, you are a floater. Now, I hope this isn't the case on your team, but there are moments where individuals will actually float from green to red. Have you ever had a teammate that you never know which version of that person you're going to get one day to the next? Man, it's like walking on eggshells around them. It's like one minute they're all in, next minute they're out. One minute they love it, next minute they hate it. One minute they're putting in work, next minute they're skipping workouts. It's like, which version are we going to get? If that's the case, they are a floater. We say, in order to be green, very important, you've got to be green 90% of the time or more. You see, one of the greatest gifts we can give our teammates is the gift of consistency. That gift of just knowing what we can expect from you. And when you float too much, frankly, you lose credibility. Because when you lack consistency, then the days you do try to be green, no one takes you as serious. They think, oh, wow, that's interesting. Now you care? Oh, that's interesting. Now you're all about the team? Oh, now you want to put in work? You weren't putting in work last week. You've got to master the consistency. It's got to be 90% or more. That's rule 2. Don't float. Now, let's jump through 3 and 4 relatively quickly. Rule 3 says those in the gray will sway. Now, which way will they sway? They could sway down. They could sway up. It depends on 2 things. Their desire. Do they even want to be green? That's the first. The second is their team environment. What are they surrounded by? Grays will sway. Remember that. Now, rule 4 says this. The more people on the green team, the easier it is to build a green team. Why is that, you may ask? Very simple. They say the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And the reality is, if every time I step into this team environment, I'm surrounded by green, the chances of me becoming green are significantly increased. So we need everybody on the green team. You see, the other reason we put that rule 4 in is because we also want to remind everyone that they play a role in this. You see, this isn't reserved for the seniors or the captains or the starters, things of that nature, where, oh, they need to be green to get us all there. Here's the deal. You could be new on the team. You could be one of the youngest on the team. You could be someone who doesn't play a lot on the team. It doesn't matter. If you are on the team, if you are in the room, you play a role in building that green team, and we need everybody on board. That's rule 4. Now, rule 5 gets a little interesting. I'm switching over here to my red marker. Because rule 5 says those in the red are great recruiters. Those in the red are great recruiters. You got to get this. It is important. Here's what we mean. When we talk about recruiting, it's almost as if the reds are trying to recruit others to join them. You know, there's a little quote that says, misery loves company. And it's almost like that negative energy likes to spread. And that people spread that negative energy and it brings people down. It's almost as if they're recruiting. So here's what I want to ask you and discuss amongst the team for a moment. Think about maybe your experience in life with Reds recruiting. How do they recruit, and what does recruiting often look like within the team environment? Share some instances, not specific people, but just how people go about the approach of recruiting. So here's the deal about recruiters. One, don't get recruited. If a teammate tries to recruit you into the red, don't go there. Second, if you see the recruiting happening, you gotta shut it down. You see, recruiters in the red could damage all of our progress on the green team. We go deeper into the psychology of reds later in our program, but for now, just know they are around, don't get recruited, and shut it down. Now, shutting it down is not easy. And it actually segues into rule number 6 for us. And rule number 6 says this: you have to fight every day to build a green team. You got to fight. Now, what do I mean by fight? Why not work or try? Why did we go aggressive and say the word fight? Simply because it's not easy. I mean, if building a green team was easy, everybody would do it. If showing up green 90% of the time was easy, everybody would do it. But it's not. Frankly, it's easier to be red than it is to be green. And we say if you're not fighting to be green, you most likely will fall to red. The reality is there's going to be some days you're tired. Some days you may not want to show up that way, may not want to kind of be that person for your teammates. Man, it's tough. You got to fight through it. You really have to fight through it to get yourself there 90%. Not to mention there could be people in the red fighting against you, almost trying to hurt the team they claim to want to help. It doesn't make sense sometimes, but it happens. Rule 6, I just want to prepare everyone in the room. You want to build something really, really special, a green team, man, we're going to have to fight. We're going to have to be prepared to fight for it and really, really go after it. It's the only way it works. It's the only way the job gets done. Are you going to win the fight? Are you prepared for the fight? We're going to win it. And we have to, because Rule 7 reminds us that those in the gray live in a safe place, but nothing special can be built there. You see, the gray is safe. In fact, I don't want to tell you why. I'm actually more curious for you all to discuss it. Take a moment. When I say gray is safe, what am I getting at? What do you think I'm alluding to? My hope is as you all were discussing, you were talking about things like it's easy, it's in your comfort zone, your expectations are lower, people aren't expecting much from you. It's almost like you get to just fly under the radar, just kind of gray, just doing just enough. And many of us, that's what we give. That's what we give to each other. That's what we give to the team. Now, although it may be easier, you do have to recognize it comes with a cost. And here's the cost. You don't get to be part of something special. In fact, we believe green teams change your life, and they do. If you've ever talked to anyone that's ever been part of a special team, they remember that experience forever. The reality is the green team is hard to build, but it is worth the fight because what you experience becomes so special that you remember it forever. We don't want to play the safe game when there's a better option of being part of something special. Gray is safe, but nothing special can be built there. We've got to lean in on this, and let's get the job done. This is the green team. This is the 7 rules to help us understand from a psychology standpoint. What's it look like to build a green team? What are some things we're going to have to encounter? What are some things that are maybe going to be obstacles along this journey? Now, keep in mind, this is just the first step. We've got so much more that we're going to continue to incorporate to help bring the green team to life and help make sure at the end of the day, we're green and nothing else.